I want to be a runner. I want to run. Welcome back again today, friends. I am proud of us. We are doing this over here on the new J Morrell channel. I want to say all caps J Morrell. Yes, it's so many fun jokes in my mind and my heart. It may not be perfect, it may not be by the book, but I generally get it done. So jumping right in, I'm going to share my weight loss journey on my 64-pound weight loss, all right here in one video. How it started, what the journey has been, and how I got this far. Now, if you follow me over on my main J Morrell Stewart channel that I've had on YouTube for well over a decade now, there are threads of my weight loss journey and that story woven all around over there. I even have several videos, one in particular called Saving Myself, where I shared a good bit of the journey, but there's not an update on my journey since I filmed that video in May 2024 to where I am now. Plus, this will give you the whole story in one spot for all of you who have asked for me to share my whole story, start to finish in one spot. Here we go. And for those of you who are new here, my name is J Morrell. I am honestly a woman who is hurting and struggling. And I know that I am not alone. I know that there are humans all over this planet that are hurting and that are struggling and who are in hard places, and you're just looking on how to take your next step, how to take your next breath. And that is the same journey I have found myself on. So we will be discussing so many things over here, and this video gives me an entry point and we will springboard from here. So like many women, I have gained weight for many reasons. Some of the reasons I've gained weight, you know, there's 9 of them. I am a mom of 9, and I was just reflecting the other day. I was going back through some Instagram pictures that are now archived, but I was looking for some pictures for another video project and reading one of my posts, and it said, it was me holding one of my newborn babies, and I'll post that picture here for you. And in the picture, when I shared it, I was reading a book on productivity and time management. I believe it was the book called Eat the Frog. And it was just talking about how to get more done in your day. And I was laughing as I held my 7th baby, my newborn at the time. And I was just reflecting, as of that moment when I had that baby, I had had 4 babies in 5 years. However that math works out. You know, sometimes you have a baby born at the beginning of one year and then at the end of the next. That was my 2013 baby, and then he was my end of 2014 baby. Now I'm like, now I need to share those 4 babies. And so going back to that particular season, I had a baby summer 2009. I had 3 babies before that, but I want to share with you the 4 babies in 5 years season, okay? So I had my 4th baby summer 2009. I had my 5th baby January 2011. I had my 6th baby, and I've got to close my eyes to put it all together, my 6th baby February 2013. And I had my 7th baby December 2014. So that was my 4 babies in 5 years. That technically, if you're gonna write out on paper for me, might be within 5.5 years. And 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, roughly, right? So that's a lot of babies in a short time span. And then I went on to have 2 more after number 7. And at this point, my oldest is 24 and my youngest is 3. So my body's done a lot over the last 25 years, as any mama can attest to. And so it was during having those 4 babies, and I'm just, since I'm not doing the math right now fully, I will say 4 babies in 5.5 years. I mean, even 4 babies in 6 years, that's a lot, okay? Okay, maybe I should round up. So it was during those years that the weight started to stay on, because for all of my babies, I have long-term breastfed. You have the hormones with breastfeeding, you have the hormones with pregnancy, and you have postpartum adventures. And I've had a lot of adventures. So during my pregnancy with baby number 7, I had been looking at the very thick phone book size of a book by Trim Healthy Mama. I think it was just called Trim Healthy Mama. I had been looking at that book because at that point I was a very burned out blogger and online business owner. And obviously I had a lot of children and I was homeschooling and I had a lot of other life dynamics I was managing. So when I first got that book, I had seen it online a lot. I had seen other women having success with it, but I was pretty mad at it because I was like, one more thick thing to boss me around in life. Like, this is not what I need. This is not helpful. But it was during that pregnancy with baby number 7 that I actually started to read the book a little bit. I don't know how I tiptoed into it. It just became a little like one chapter a night. I was enjoying it. I love to read Pearl and Serene's banter back and forth. And so it was during that pregnancy that I started to play around with it. And very simply, I just tried to do some of the breakfast. And then worked into, okay, I had an on-plan breakfast and then I tried to have an on-plan lunch. And I started to do more of on-plan dinners. I feel like I have a lot of history to keep straight here. I may have even started to read the book a little bit before that pregnancy. That's just a little fine point detail. On Instagram, you know, I was on Instagram because I'm old when it first came out, when it first became a thing, and none of us knew what to do or what kind of pictures to share or how to build an audience with or whatever. It was just, you know, the homeschool moms looking at each other's pictures and such. Something a little different from the blogs that we shared back then. And so I have a hashtag over on Instagram. I believe it's hashtag JMorell on THM. And so that goes all the way back to like 2013, 2014 IG post. However Mama got into it, I got into the THM plan. I enjoyed it. Ladies ask about being on it while they're pregnant and while they're breastfeeding. And it's a way to eat that is protein centered. It helps stabilize blood sugar for most women. I have always been a huge Trim Healthy Mama fan. So a big part of this video will sound like a love letter to Trim Healthy Mama, and that's okay, because honestly, if a book could become a friend, that first book became my friend. And so during my pregnancy and during my postpartum time and even into that first year being postpartum, however it all worked together, I was able to lose around 40 pounds. My very first freezer cooking video actually on YouTube on my main channel is a video doing Trim Healthy Mama freezer meals. They were recipes from their first book, and it was how I was adapting them and doing a big batch freezer cooking using those recipes. And I think in that video, I'm wearing baby number 7 a lot, and it was just a real good time. And I was doing things like the little muffin in the mug recipe that uses a lot of almond flour, learning to center each meal in protein and such. Because I had come from a place for several years where I had a very, very small grocery budget. I fed up to a family of 7 for $250 a month. And honestly, sharing parts of that journey was a big part of what I shared online, and how to make homemade laundry detergent. That's also one of my first videos over on my main channel and such. So it's all from that season. And then enter in other life pressures and a move and juggling. My business kept growing in other ways. And I don't know what to say other than I had a lot of pressure, and I continued on the Trim Healthy Mama plan. And I was getting movement in with my kids in our backfield. Like I probably walked 2 to 3 miles a day around our property, but it was, you know, I had a whole posse of kids with me. And again, we were in the field and we were with our chickens, we were at our pond, and I would try to get some kind of movement in for my body. I have always loved movement. I wasn't doing things though, like running 5Ks and hiking into the mountains for miles and those sort of things. And then we moved in 2016. I was still doing the Trim Healthy Mama plan, but again, life pressures and stress. I think by this point, with the little bit I have been living and walking out with high levels of cortisol in my current season, you know, all these years later and all that I have learned, I think I probably had the same high cortisol thing happening. But at some point, 2016, 2017-ish, I fell off the wagon. I stopped eating the Trim Healthy Mama plan. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was staying up, you know, till 3 a.m. doing freezer cooking videos and getting up and homeschooling my kids. And within that, I was pregnant again with baby number 8 that I had in 2017. And then I rolled right into selling a very popular blog slash business that I had built. And that was like selling a house, and the first buyers backed out and I had to do it all again. And that plus a whole lot more. I mean, you can just insert whatever life pressures you have into that story. I had a lot that I was dealing with and managing. So my health took a back seat and was no longer a priority. Where at the farmhouse, when I did have that season on Trim Healthy Mama and I lost 40 pounds, I was as my own hobby. So maybe together we can find a pattern and a thread here, right? As my own hobby, I took up my own self-care, you know, reading that book, cooking the recipes, doing the freezer meals, getting out and making sure I was getting some walks in the sunshine with my kids. My taking care of myself got moved higher up on my list. And after the move to the forest house, within a short period of time, taking care of myself got moved further down the list, and doing more, overcompensating a whole lot more to take care of my family rose to the top. And somewhere within that, it became a slippery slope for weight gain. When I look at the videos of myself, how many of you watched over the years, I can see it now. I didn't feel any different in my head, but somehow over time and over baby number 8 and then another move and then baby number 9, I got all the way up to 210 pounds. Now I'm 5'4", and so that was a whole lot for my body. And honestly, there were so many times I tried. There were so many times in 2017, 2018, 19, 20, so many times I was trying, you know, I was trying to take care of myself. I was trying to put saving myself back up near the top of my list, and I couldn't. And I think a lot of moms can relate. You just get on this landslide and you're just trying to breathe and do the next thing, and taking care of yourself just goes out the window while you're really busy taking care of everybody else. And I don't know what all the answers are for being in those seasons. But I do know in my personal experience and in my journey, which is the only journey that I have lived out, is I know that there came a time when all of that started to catch up with me. And so in January 2021, when I was pregnant with my 9th baby and in my 3rd trimester, I got very, very sick. And I ended up in the hospital for several days on IV antibiotics, and they were limited in what they could do because I was pregnant. But all they knew at that time is I had off the charts E. coli, and I had a wicked kidney infection, which is always a super dangerous place to be. And then when you're pregnant, that adds other layers. And so when I got home from the hospital, again, January 2021, and I vlogged it, of course I did, because I'm a creator and because creating videos has been a big part of my business. And those videos capturing that journey are over on my main channel. But when I got home from that hospital experience, I was on my blue couch in my baby kitchen area a lot. I had about 8 to 9 weeks or so until baby number 9 would be born. And when I came home, I was still on antibiotics, and I ended up over the coming months being on 6 different antibiotics, plus what they infused me with at the hospital. And we could not get on top of the E. coli. So, like how I do, I look at what can I control. You know, as humans, we look for these little threads, whether we have control or not. What can we do? I don't know, may not be all humans, but me, I'm just like, okay, these are the 3 pieces I have left to work with. How am I gonna make it through? So I'm overweight, I'm sick, off the charts E. coli, I want my baby to be okay. I have a house full of other children. I have a business to run. Over the next few months, I was just getting out like 1 video a week or 2 videos a month. As a video creator, very much survival, skeleton, schedule. I teach so much more about all of that in my Successful Business Mama YouTuber Extraordinaire course that I'm revamping. And this is where, have you seen the meme that says, well, I'm trying to tell you one story, I'll tell you 30? I mean, it's just, this is who I am, okay? So I have videos of that time, but it was a very scary, sick time for me. And while I was on my couch for hours every day, so very sick, homeschooling from the couch, reading stories from the couch. Again, that's when I was in my baby kitchen, so I could waddle from the couch to the kitchen. Somewhere I was reading on Facebook, I was in a Trim Healthy Mama group, and I saw Pearl mention their Trim Healthy starter book. And I'm pretty sure, yes, this is my copy from then. So that the pages are like all dog-eared, so many notes. I got this and I read it, just like I read their thick phone book one, 2013, 2014, and it was my friend. Winter 2021, I read this starter book. I needed a friend, and Trim Healthy Mama was yet again a friend for me. And so while I sat that winter and tried to make it through until time to have the baby, I got this book. I read it like I never had done Trim Healthy Mama before. And I started making the recipes in here like I've never done any of the recipes before, because it had been a few years. And it just made it super simple because, yeah, there's 50 recipes in here. I love all of their books. I love all of their recipes. They give so much information, and this is what I needed at that time. And so I would go through here and I would just, again, I would do what I could. I started doing, some of my very first TikTok videos were just the little simple breakfasts I was making. And it was like sauteed squash and zucchini and frying eggs. And then in here I made a lot of their, well, there's a drink called Boost Juice, and we weren't sure what was going on with my kidneys. This is not kidney advice, but this did have vitamin C in it. It was supposed to help be good for the adrenals. Oh, I should probably make this now. It says a boon for your energy levels. Anywho, I made a lot of Boost Juice during that time. And this Choco Big Boy smoothie, I mean, I can just continue this Trim Healthy Mama love letter, and it's not stopping anytime soon. But I got this book. And so my current 64-pound weight loss started in January 2021 when I was so sick, struggling on a whole lot of other levels. And just before baby number 9 came into this world when I got this book. And I have been eating on the Trim Healthy Mama plan since January 2021. Now in March 2021, I had that baby, and it was also a traumatic birth experience. And lots of folks have asked me to share that birth story, and I still haven't. And I'll just say now, for anyone who asks, I don't know that I ever will, other than maybe this is a little sign of healing with that. I've got so many layers that I'm healing from, but let's see, can I share a speck of that? It was over 72 hours. It was a over 72-hour experience. And I honestly thought my spirit was going to leave my body at one point. Like I just had that thought, like that would be easier at this point. So there's a lot there. It makes me want to cry now. There's gonna be tears. I mean, there's tears on my main channel. We're gonna have some tears over here, okay? I just remember when he was born and I looked at him and I said, Tobin, we made it, you know? So that was a tender time. And I was still on antibiotics and I was still sick. Within a few weeks of him being born, it was like the Lord ripped the veil and I saw other things revealed in other areas of my life. And I feel like the Lord showed me some things and I wasn't quite ready to handle them, didn't know how to process them. So we'll just title that as I saw a lot more stuff, and my body was really sick, and I had a newborn, and I had a house full of kids, and I had a full-time business that had been 100% supporting my family since 2012. Again, I have to do that by the dates of my children. I had baby number 6 in 2013. I was well into my business. That was the other thing I guess I grew during the 5 years and those 4 babies. I grew a whole online business situation out of a hobby. So yeah, there's that. And so while I was processing so very many things in life and nursing my baby and taking care of my children and running my business, I continued to eat these recipes in this Trim Healthy Mama starter book. That was something I could do. I didn't look any different in 2021 when I was on the Trim Healthy Mama plan. Again, I had ripped the veil open on a series of traumas. I had a traumatic birth. My body was still very, very sick. I was still going antibiotic to antibiotic, but I was eating on this Trim Healthy Mama plan. And I was breastfeeding. And I was advocating for myself within the medical system because I was not having a great experience in a modern day urology clinic. But in August 2021, I had a kidney surgery. And within that time, I was able to get a CT scan, which these health events, this all relates to my weight loss journey. And so many of you, again, have been following this journey and following these threads for these years. So I was able to get a CT scan in May 2021 that showed I had a 10mm kidney stone that was harboring all this bacteria, that was growing all this E. coli, that was going through my whole system, that was making me super sick. Because of the size, they weren't going to be able to shake it out. I can't remember all the terms of the procedures right now. They needed to go in and do the laser treatment. But it was a big deal for me emotionally, besides everything else I was dealing with, because I'd never been put to sleep for a surgery before. It was just all a very tender time. And so all I did different health-wise, but still like a little hook in trying to take care of myself for 2021 and 2022, and then for a good part of 2023, is I ate on the Trim Healthy Mama plan. During that time, had the kidney procedure, ended up in the hospital again with my kidney in May 2022. They wanted to do the same procedure again, and I did not want having my kidney scooped every year to be how we were going to solve that problem. And I have gotten a lot of advice on kidney stones. I've had a lot of women contact me on kidney stones, asking me what I've done and how I've made it through. I think I still have them in that right kidney. I don't know or think I'm necessarily growing them at this time. I mean, who could know? I've only had extensive testing done and had never got those test results back. It was a real good time. But what I did different in May 2022 is I got connected with a local holistic doctor. She is an MD, because folks will ask, what kind of doctor is she? But she just was very good about blood work and looking at my lab results. And at that time, I learned from her that my calcium was high, my potassium was low. There was a list of other labs on there. And so with her, so this is part of my weight loss and health journey. Also at that time, my bad cholesterol was bad. I mean, it was all bad. My vitamin D in fall 2020, early in pregnancy with baby number 9, it was 7. So also during this time, I'm on a journey to raise my vitamin D and take vitamin D with K2. So there was a lot going on in my body. And when I was in the hospital May 2022, instead of making me wait months for the procedure, how it went in 2021, they wanted to do it over those days I was admitted. And they gave me more IV antibiotics, and I wanted to beat on some more doors and see if I could find some other answers. So starting to work with that other doctor and focusing on correcting what we could on my labs was a step in that direction. I will say I have a twinge, yay, in that same kidney. I know what a kidney stone feels like. Maybe twice in the past year I have felt it. So at some point I'm gonna have to look that in the eye. We're maintaining for right now. That's just honestly where I am with it. I did not want to have the kidney scoop procedure again. I wanted to see if there's some other alternatives. Maybe correcting many of my labs will be helpful. Maybe I'll end up being in tomorrow and just have to get it done another time. I don't know. I don't have those answers. That's part of that journey. But as far as the weight loss, for those years, I ate on the Trim Healthy Mama plan, and I did lose 25 pounds. Also through that time, working to heal my body and get many of my labs within more normal limits and continuing to eat the Trim Healthy Mama plan, I went from 210 to 185. And I was so hopeful. I was even going through some of my old journals last night. Spring 2023, we did my dream garden out here on our property. And again, over that time, I had seen my weight slow and steady, gentle, go down in the right direction. And not long after that, I got my dream milk cow. You know, we were doing a great many things. And then I found out in July 2023, I was pregnant with my 10th baby. And I was so happy. And I don't know, there could be tears. I'm like, if I stare out the window, will there be tears right now or not? I'm not sure. I have a video on my main channel sharing that experience, but I was happy, I was hopeful. I had never had a pregnancy loss before. I knew about the baby for about 2 weeks or so. I hadn't shared anything publicly, but I did lose that baby officially on July 31st, and it was devastating. And with that pregnancy loss, I just didn't care for a little bit, and that was okay. The day I lost the baby, I ordered Domino's pizza and I watched movies for a week and I cried, and it was a really, really sad time. And I turned 44 and we went on a family therapy type trip. I mean, we had some plans for my birthday, but then I just wanted to do fun things with my family, and I wanted to just wanted to have a happy time. So we went to Busch Gardens, we did some fun family things, and I feel like I had almost taken a whole month off of work, and to make money, making videos and creating content is a big piece of that puzzle. So I was hopeful, I was recalibrating my plan, I was, getting my head back to work. Most people can't just quit their jobs when they have a medical emergency or lose a baby or have any kind of life emergency. I can't either, and I couldn't then as well. And over those few weeks after I lost the baby, I wasn't looking at the scale real heavy, but later in August, when I did get back on the scale, I was back in the 190s again. So somewhere I gained 10 pounds, which I'm sure fluid and having a baby and losing a baby and then not caring what I ate for a couple weeks, 10 pounds was probably a pretty easy gain. And then, who knew it? In August 2023, my life blew up in so many unimaginable ways, so many other levels. No, I'm not sharing those details. I'm not in a place to share those details. The only thing I have shared now is I do share the reality that I am a single mom. And that's pretty much all I want to say about that. But that's also reality. Okay, and I have done a lot of work and will be doing work the rest of my life on facing reality and accepting reality, not gaslighting myself. I've learned all kinds of new words. End of August 2023 into September 2023, it was like every day was another landmine. And it was just really unreal. And I have been through a lot. And I felt like every day, like my body was on fire. I just remember at one point, maybe a week or so in, I was like, okay, I know what food to put in my mouth. I can do that. I've been off a couple weeks. I know what food to eat. If I had to pick up Little Caesars pizza to have something to feed my kids, I could go through Hardee's and I could get the double bacon cheeseburger with no bun wrapped in lettuce. And that's what I did. We had, because I've always been making freezer meals for the most part, we did have a freezer with our tried and true basics, spaghetti sauce and chili, the same thing I'm going through on my main channel, getting back in my freezer these days. We had some good basics. I had some 9x13 meals. We had a good bit there. Now, we were not using freezer meals all day, every day, but we had many, many days where we were using freezer meals all day, every day. And if I couldn't defrost the spaghetti sauce and dump it in a slow cooker or have someone else do it, and I would pick up Little Caesars, I learned what to get for myself to put in my own mouth. Now, some people say, oh, you horrible witch of a woman, you fed your family Little Caesars and you had a double cheeseburger with no bun. You did that for yourself. Why couldn't you do that for them? I was working on saving my children's mother. I could feed them and buy them pizza, and I could put a double cheeseburger wrapped in lettuce in my mouth. That's all I could do. It also would have been equally fine and okay. And is equally fine and okay if you put Little Caesars in your mouth. It is all whatever you need to do to make it through. and everybody's journey is different. And for me, in my journey, I was losing control of so many things. The only thing I could grab onto was what can I put in my mouth? Like, I could make a decision about that. About 195-ish, again, September 2023, I just went back to what I'd already put in practice for 2.5 years. I was eating the Trim Healthy Mama plan. I do want to say too, because some people have said, 25 pounds over 2.5 years, how slow that is. But remember, again, I started this in pregnancy and my body was sick. And then I breastfed after I had him a good 1.5 to 2 years. I'm in my 40s and I've probably been in perimenopause by different signs and symptoms that I'm aware of since I was 37. Baby number 8-ish. So also a miracle I was able to have baby number 9. My body wasn't just releasing weight quickly. So slow and steady through birth, through breastfeeding, through kidney stuff that I'm still unraveling. Through it all, I was happy to have lost 25 pounds. And no, it wasn't as much or as quickly as the 40 pounds I had lost 2 babies before in a different season of life, but that's okay. And so also in September 2023, enter in extreme body movement. Now, I was so very broken and traumatized, and I had wave after crashing wave coming on me. I learned quickly I had to move my body every day because I needed endorphins. I needed serotonin. I needed every kind of good thing that I could produce naturally in my body. And it's easier to see now, looking back over a year now. I would walk, I would be able to make it through the day. I remember then many times gasping, but also searching for my next breath. And so making it through the day was a very big deal. And whenever I would walk, I walked about 3 to 4 hours most days. And that would wear me down enough to where I could take a hot Epsom salt bath and I could go to sleep at night and I could sleep 8 to 9 hours. All of that is a mercy and a miracle in my situation. I could have been in the hospital. I could have been not sleeping. I could have had a full breakdown. And also, all of those things are okay. It's all allowed. It's all life. It's all messy. And how I coped for me isn't an answer on how everyone should cope. It's just my story, again, on how I found my next breath. And I know I also get hit and hammered with, and it's hard to filter all the critical stuff and the hate. It's a lot. And so what I just try to do is not have to process it or feel it, because I've got a really long list already. But one of the questions and comments or statements put my way is, I was only able to do that because my mom is here. And yeah, my mom has been with me for several years, even before any of this happened. And her being here to help me when everything imploded in my life allowed me to be able to do things like walk for 4 hours. That's a blessing. That's part of why I'm here today. And I'm very thankful that she has been here and she was here. And that's where any mama would want to be for their child when their life implodes. And so when things were super, super critical emotionally for me, I could have fully broken down. I had all kinds of daily breakdowns, but I could have just got on the couch and not been able to get up, which also would have been okay. But she could look at me and she could say, you could go walk now. And so many days and weeks at first, I could not do that heavy walking on my property because there were too many triggers here. It was best for me to go to a local park, and I walked there, and then I was able to come back home and go from there. And what I learned through September 2023 and October 2023 was how good exercising helps me feel. Even though life was a mess, the walking helped me process. And even now, I'm not out of the woods, out of the water. I live in active crisis, okay? However, I have these skills now that I've learned, which has also been on this journey of weight loss. When things get jammed up, when there's new things that upset my nervous system, when there's new things I have to process, I go walking and it helps me immensely. There's all kinds of science and research on walking, on moving our bodies. I try to share them as I see them in my Instagram stories. I don't have all the research memorized, but I know the 1,000 Hours Outside podcast has had some phenomenal expert guests, and they share about walking and body movement and sunshine and all of those good things that I've been living out in real time. And more recently, I see they have guests and research that match my lived experience. And friends, how things go, we had a slight pause in the filming of this video. I had started filming it in November, so now that it's February, let's continue the story. So for October 2023, I continued eating on the Trim Healthy Mama plan and with my heavy daily walking. I was also invited with a group from my church to try out country line dancing in the gym of a local elementary school. And I went to that, and I mean, it was overwhelming, okay? It was overwhelming because there were a lot of couples there, a lot of longtime couples that, let's say, started dancing together in the 90s or what have you. So that was a tender time. It was also overwhelming because it was hard. And there was ages like 7 to 77 there. It was a nice group, probably about 80 people my first time I went. But there was something about it. You know, the rhythm and the music and all of it was really, really good for my head. And it gave me another, you know, over here we talk about like a little kitten claw hook, right? It gave me another little kitten claw hook to hook onto. It gave me something to look forward to. And the dances were just twice a month. But after that first time in October, I was like, okay, in 2 weeks I can come back and try again. And I just figured, like a lot of things, I'd learn a little bit more each time and it would all come together. So I had that new joy of line dancing in October, and I continued with the heavy walking. I still didn't know yet I was about to fulfill one of my longtime hopes and dreams, and I was gonna become a runner, but we're almost there. So in October, my walking, I had a lot of heavy personal stuff in October. So heavy. I started to do things such as reach 20,000 steps most days, and I even had days where I was reaching 30,000, 35,000, a couple times 40,000 steps. And then towards the end of October, I took my kids roller skating, and I love roller skating. I've roller skated for almost 4 decades now, okay? I took them roller skating like how I love to do, and I fell right towards the end of the skate time. We skated for 2 hours, and I broke my left wrist. Thankfully, it wasn't my right, because I'm right hand dominant and I do a lot of things with my hands, but that was not on my end of 2023 bingo card. My bingo card was already full of things I did not ever know would be on my bingo card. And a broken wrist was just like, I mean, why do we have to do this also? But I was so thankful because when I fell hard on my hip. And at that point, I needed the heavy walking to make it through each day. And so in the month of November, now had the broken wrist. Thankfully, it was not anything that required surgery. And I just prayed that it would be the best broken wrist it could be, since it was obviously already broken. And so as November marched on, I did take about 4 or 5 days off of walking whenever I broke my wrist, just because pain. But then I just got back out there, low and slow, like how I should cook, right? I just kept walking, and I was able to do more of walking on my property at that time. During that same season, in November 2023, I started weekly trauma and grief therapy, and my therapist told me that walking does that whole bilateral stimulation thing, and it helps incredibly with brain processing. I was super traumatized, had a lot that had happened that I was processing, a lot I was living currently in the active crisis, a lot I knew that was coming up that I was processing. And so again, the walking was helping me make it through. And within all of this, I was still losing weight. I had gone from a size 16, 18, but to that point I was in a 12, 14. And as the time started to change, and I had had so many of those high step days, you know, many times if I was getting 20 to 35,000 steps, my legs just felt like they were super warmed up and they wanted to run during that process. I downloaded the free Nike Run app and I set it to 5K, and I thought, I'm just gonna see if I can run a 5K. I've been walking miles and miles a day for like 12 weeks at that point. Can I actually run? And I ran my first 5K, I believe in about 47 minutes or so, but I did it. And I loved it so much, I ran a 5K every day for 9 days straight. And that really kicked off my running time. Now, many years ago, when I lived at the Forest House, I wanna say like 2018-ish, I downloaded the Couch to 5K app, and I kept getting this stirring like, I want to be a runner. I want to run. It didn't quite pan out for me at that time, but I connected with that dream that was several years old by that point. I'm like, that's right. I wanted to be a runner. I think I'm just going to be a runner now. And like how I do, I was like, well, I'm running and I need more little kitten claw hook things to bring me joy, because at that point I was just grabbing for any little thing. The line dancing, by that point I'd probably been 4 times, continuing to make choices about what I put in my mouth, and continuing with my walking and also running. And so I signed up for a 5K winter series in my area, and mid-December 2024, I did my first big group 5K, which was exhilarating to run those miles with hundreds of other people. It was called the Jingle Bell 5K. At that point, I was still running like 6 or 7 days a week. I was running most days. It felt so good to my body. It gave me some hope. It gave me endorphins. It really helped continue to help the process of me getting enough energy out during the night, getting that hot bath, and actually getting 8 hours of sleep every night, which was a gift. Also, with the time change, with everything being dark by 5 p.m., running allowed me days that I wasn't able to get 3 or 4 hours of walking in. I was still able to get a run in. And through all of that, my weight continued to go down little by little and bit by bit. Now, some folks have said, because I have shared that I had a major life trauma, that all of the stress and shock from the trauma just traumatized me, I guess, or stressed me out enough to make me lose weight. That has not been my experience. I've also had a lot of people ask me or assume and just say that I have used weight loss drugs, which I haven't. I've lost weight. I'm all about collecting data. The data that I have is I started THM again, dedicated, in January 2021 in the midst of all that sickness that I shared with you. And then having that baby and postpartum and breastfeeding. And even once I was done with breastfeeding him, I lost 25 pounds, which is great. I went from 210 to 185. And then starting September 2023, I added in heavy daily physical activity, not at all thinking that that would do anything about weight loss. I needed the physical activity for my mental health. As I've shared with you in some other videos over here, you know, that fragile framework of joy. I just worked on rebuilding my life and grabbing onto what I could. So that winter, in that winter series, I ran several group 5Ks, and I continued with my twice a month line dancing. And folks have asked me with kids how I ran the 5Ks. Many times they were really early on a Saturday morning. And that's how a lot of races are. I might leave the house at 7 and be back by 10 a.m. or 11. And these days, I have some of my folks that come with me and run the races with me too. Not every race, but often. Now, super sad, by February, with all of that heavy running, and I just got the app and did the thing, didn't ask permission, just did it. I did have some pain in my shins. I was worried, I had shin splints, and you know, Dr. Google tells you so many things. I had read that they can lead to a stress fracture, and then I'd have to wear a boot, and then I'd have to not run for 12 weeks or so. It was very, very sad. So by March, I started working with a personal trainer who is a running coach. She runs all the things, all the times. She's done the Boston Marathon. I believe she is qualified and she's doing the Boston Marathon again in 2025. So if anyone could help me with my shin splints, it was her. And I also, within that, had an x-ray and we verified there was not a stress fracture, but I definitely needed some tweaking. So with her, I learned proper stretching and I did some strength training with her while my shin splints healed. So within a few weeks, I was back to walking again. Of course, not the same level that I was at quite yet. And then I believe I don't remember if I had a 5K in April, but in May I definitely did, and I've run many more 5Ks since that time. Total for 2024, I did a dozen 5Ks, and by the end of the year, I got my fastest 5K time, which was under 35 minutes, which considering I had started a year before and my 5K time was 47 minutes, I shaved over 12 minutes off my 5K time, and I would love by the end of 2025 to have a 5K less than 30 minutes. That's my goal. I know that's a lot of my running and my running journey, but that was the heavy body movement that I was getting in at that time. At that point, my doctor, my personal trainer, and my therapist all knew that I was getting in that heavy body daily movement. They also knew all the other trials of life that I was juggling, and they all said that if running felt good to my body, of course, to listen to my body, I did learn to not run 6 to 7 days a week, that for me, it was best for me to run 4 days a week. And that's my goal even now. It's been now 18 months of twice a month line dancing and 18 months of a whole lot of running. Now, excitedly, by March 2024, my weight that I had continued to watch drop several pounds a month. My weight was, I remember weighing one day and I was getting ready to film one of my freezer cooking videos and I was 157, and that was so exciting. And by April, I was like 153. And so I just assumed that that steady couple pounds a month was going to continue. I'm 5'4", and I was thinking, I'd love to see 140. I'd love to see 130. I don't know if I could get below that, but I'd just like to keep going and see. And then in May, I mean, I'd had a lot of stress. In May, I had some new stress levels. Also, I had a wonderful opportunity to go down to the Trim Healthy Mama ladies, go down to Trim Healthy Mama Land. I was on their podcast and I basically got to have my whole Trim Healthy Mama Love Fest, and it was a wonderful trip down there and a fun experience. But in May, I think I had had healing in some areas, but in May it was like a feeling, even though I'd made it through so much, there was a whole new level of deep stress, like the word stress. It was a lot before, but again, I don't know. I don't have a roadmap. You know, I just know what I have lived through. Something in May just really wasn't great. Yeah, just wasn't great. There's joy. Both not great things and joy can coexist and all happen on the same day. And May was some just deep feelings of stress. If you ask me when I felt stress in May. In November, when I started therapy, I just felt, again, like gasping, couldn't breathe, just wanted to try to figure out how to live and not be hysterical, crying all the time. And by getting my little kitten claw activities, I know some folks there, you know, just when you share online, share a picture of running, share a picture of anything that you enjoy doing, and then there's going to be people that encourages, and then there's going to be people like booing and how dare you run and do things that you enjoy. But for me, really being forced to care about myself and to figure out, per the videos I've shared over here already, about finding my next breath and how I was going to make it through, and my goodness, just total devastation. That's what I was working through in November. I think in May there was a lot of acceptance and reality, and then just stress from that. And then June, a lot of not great stuff in June. And so if I had stress in May, I had stress times 10 in June. And I dealt with that stress June, July, and August really bad. It was just really bad. And so weight loss wise, that needle went from 153 to 150, just up and down like that. And I just I felt the stress surging in my body. I felt like the pain, I'll say pain shooting down my arms. And I let my doctor know, and he followed all that. and he was paying attention to things. And in June, I had just all the blood work we could possibly do. It was probably towards the end of June. How I coped. See, the physical activity is a coping mechanism. That has helped me process to make it through. So I got my most miles and my most steps in 1 month in July. And even though I got all those miles, I think it was like 120 miles or so, and I probably got like 110 in August and maybe 100 in June. All those miles did not equal weight loss. And continuing to eat Trim Healthy Mama did not equal weight loss. However, I was ultimately eating Trim Healthy Mama to nourish my body the best way that I knew how. And I continued the heavy movement to cope with a whole lot of deep stuff and make it through. So then in August, actually, I think my doctor sent it to me like August 7th, happy birthday. I got all of that blood work back. Nothing was good. It was all bad. I will link the video down below. It's called The Health Update I Didn't Want, something like that. But I share in detail what was happening. But one marker for inflammation, which I had never paid attention to before, the HS-CRP, it was 5.7, okay? And the report came back red, high risk for heart attack and stroke. My fasting glucose was 113, which I believe in that range, anything over 120 is like full-blown diabetic. My A1C had come down from losing 60 pounds from the year before. I was 5.8, I was 5.7. I was still in that pre-diabetic range. My fasting insulin was 15, and I'm pretty sure that needs to be below 9, and this is just me remembering numbers off my head. The whole thing was not great, and my cortisol was all messed up. All things that make sense with the severe trisis. Trisis is crisis and trauma, okay? The severe trisis that I was living through, my lab work showed it. And stage 1 adrenal fatigue. I think my vitamin D was within normal limits, so that's always nice to see, considering, as I've shared, I had a time where my vitamin D was 7 in 2020. So it's nice when that's normal, but yeah, a lot of things did not look great. And so when I share that, I have also shared I had been eating Trim Healthy Mama for several years. And so let me say, Trim Healthy Mama did not make my lab work that I got back in August 2024 not great. Trim Healthy Mama was a friend to me in several different stages of my life, and they gave me a framework and a basis and something to grab onto. Taught me how to get off sugar and white flour and anchor my meals in protein and so many great skills. However, with the havoc going on in my nervous system, and I was just listening to Dr. Jason Fung today. I'm listening to his book, The Obesity Code, and he was even sharing in there about high cortisol also causes insulin resistance. So what I was face to face with in August 2024, after naturally losing 60 pounds, September 2023, I was 195. And so for September 23 to April 24, I went from 195 to 150. So that was a 45-pound weight loss in, count on our fingers, friends, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, in 8 months. So I had to get my calculator out. So that was just a little over 5.5 pounds a month, but consistently, and it all added up. But again, when I felt that next level of stress click in my body in May, I just up and down 150 to 153. So by June, definitely by July, there was not that consistent 5.5 pound weight loss a month. And I was just happy to not be gaining weight, you know? And I also figured my body had been through so very much. That's probably where my body was feeling safe. It had already done a lot. We'd already pulled some things together, and my body was pretty scared and stressed out and probably just wasn't gonna do much more at that point except stay where it was comfortable. So when I got my scary blood work back, my doctor suggested that I do an elimination diet. Now there's several factors here. But he suggested I eliminate gluten and I eliminate dairy, because also, since we like to do a lot of things in life at one time, you know, I turned 45 in August. Perimenopause has been a thing for many years. I haven't paid too much attention to it other than I know it's around, oh, that's the other thing. In August, where I was in my cycle, my progesterone and estrogen and testosterone were just like through the floor, like we're done. You know, so I just had a firestorm of things going on in my body, even after all that work and all that good movement, was still doing the movement to cope, was still loving THM. But again, my doctor was very much like, you know, gluten and dairy affect a lot of humans in a lot of different ways. And especially at your age and with perimenopause, many women test cutting out gluten and dairy. Also, it can lead to inflammation in many bodies. So he suggested I cut those out, and he wanted me to do the Lion's Diet, which I researched about it. I've read a lot of great testimonials. I thought it's supposed to be like the ultimate elimination diet, because you do it is beef. It is beef and salt and water, and that is it. And the premise behind it is because cows have multiple stomachs. The cows are able to process multiple things in the environment out, so that when we eat the meat, even if it's 70-30 ground beef at Walmart, it is still beef that has processed what it has ingested many times. And I'll link the Lion's Diet for you in the description below. There are people with their health, they have nowhere else to turn. They have tried everything, they have done everything. They have severe needs. And the Lion's Diet has been able to help them eliminate. Again, I'm not trying to sell you the Lion's Diet, but I've read enough about it where I totally see this is what some people need to do. And as much as I love THM, do you know I love Trim Healthy Mama? You've picked up on that, right? Like I just love it. I think part of it is I've learned what I do know about nutrition from Trim Healthy Mama. I learned to use old-fashioned oats in my oatmeal as a binder. I've learned about baobab powder. I had so much fun with it. But when it looked like I was gonna need to totally cleanse my system and do something like the Lion's Diet just to try to get on top of the inflammation, I knew at least for that time I wouldn't be able to do the elimination diet in depth and try to keep up with anything Trim Healthy Mama, like E-meals and S-meals and fuel pools and all those fun things that I love. I just wasn't going to be able to juggle all the things. Now, I will say there are many people with special dietary needs who need to be gluten-free or dairy-free and for different reasons, and they adjust Trim Healthy Mama to fit their needs. But at that point, I was looking at beef and salt and water for a season to eliminate. And that's all I could think about. And I even told the THM sisters that I was going to need to do that for that time. And I've talked so much about THM that some people think I'm in a brand sponsorship with them, or I somehow make money from them or something, but I am not, and I do not. It's just one of those things, like, it has been a big part of my life, and I look at it as a hobby, and I share things that I love with you guys. So I started on the Lion's Diet, and I don't know whether it was eliminating the gluten, eliminating the dairy, detoxing off of a great many things, but I made it about 4 days, and I just felt so bad. And it was so sad that I felt so bad. And how I was feeling at that time was, I've already lost so much. I already have so much in life to feel bad about. I don't think I can handle doing a full-blown, like the strictest elimination diet at this time. It felt cruel to me, given all that I had gone through. And September was another heavy emotional month for me. So I dabbled in the Lion's Diet, and I came back out of that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to have a little bit more than just beef to work with. So of course, we've all heard of carnivore. So I started to have some carnivore days with some non-starchy vegetables. So sure, I would have a ribeye, but I would also have some sauteed zucchini, or I'd bake a chicken and I'd have some broccoli. And you all can also be proud of me for persevering and continuing this video project, because I started filming this. I thought this would be such a quick and easy video for my second channel in November 2024. And here I am now in March 2025, and the story continues. I have heard from so many women who have been inspired by my story, and they've started walking, they've done research into different eating plans that would work for their own individual needs. Some of them are running or doing strength training. Like I like to share about walking laps around the trampoline while the kids are jumping, but they're making steps to care for their one life. So I continued on with the best elimination diet that I uniquely designed, again, for what my needs were. I was able to go along with eliminating gluten and eliminating dairy. I thought that those were very important. Now, I have had many folks ask me about doing further testing for gluten and dairy, and with all the little life pieces that I manage, I texted my doctor who did all of my in-depth lab work in summer 2023 that was oh so sad. And I know that he has done that dietary testing on my children. And he's busy and I'm not his only patient. I texted him and asked him if we could do further dietary testing for me, and I was not able to follow back up on that. So there's that. But I took the data that I had, which was his suggestion to eliminate gluten and dairy, and see how my body responded. And also within this journey, so as I'm doing my ketovorish, and then as Dr. Berry's wife, Nisha Berry, I've watched her for several years. She has coined the phrase to a term called ketovore. So I was very much ketovorish during that time, and I only use these phrases because it gives some quick understanding for women who are looking for topics and dietary styles that they can talk to their doctor about and make decisions for their individual needs. In October, again, I had just gotten all that lab work back in August. I spent the end of August, first part of September with Lion's Diet making me sad. And also, I'm sure part of that was just the heavy detoxing. I mean, my goodness, let's just eliminate everything and you're gonna detox a lot. It was too emotionally and physically stressful on my body to put myself through that during an already crisis time. Continuing on to October, a friend mentioned to me about Coach Mama Fox. Her name is Shannon Fox. You can go to, I'm pretty sure it's coachmamafox.com. I'm not an affiliate. This is not a sponsored video. This is just Coach Mama Fox was very helpful for me. And let me also just insert this here, okay? When you're going through crisis, when you're going through trauma, many times you cannot focus on the food and what you're putting on your body, what you're doing with your body. It is all about survival. Part of my personal survival story and part of what saved me is having good things for my head to click into, like we've talked about on this channel, you know, having my little kitten claw of hope, like when a cat gets into like a little blanket and is just hanging on by a little claw. My little kitten claw of hope on how I was gonna make it was having some personal agency over being able to move my body and being in control of making food choices, you know, what I was gonna be able to put in my mouth. Meaning I could still, even though life was all flames, I could still choose, no, I'm not going to put sugar in my body with this meal or with this choice. And many times it was one choice at a time. I don't have to have this choice with sugar. I don't have to have this biscuit with white flour. I don't want to put this in my body. But here's a list. Here's a happy list, like Bob Ross of Dietary Decisions. Here's a happy list with happy colors of things that I can choose and things that do nourish my body and my brain and my healing and all of those good things. So what I liked about Coach Mama Fox is, and I may not say all this right because again, she doesn't even know I'm saying this, but she is a certified, pretty sure she's a certified menopause fitness specialist. I believe she has completed or is about to complete a certification through Dr. Ben Binkman, and he is a scientist, and he wrote the books How Not to Get Sick and Why We Get Sick, and he teaches all about reversing insulin resistance and diabetes and what he has actually done with studies with actual human patients. And so I did not even know who he was, but when a friend referred me to Coach Mama Fox, her whole teaching is on nourishing our bodies, beating down inflammation, and reversing insulin resistance, among other things. But that's what I needed. That's what I needed help for. And I wanted to not only have beef as my option, because again, this little list of choices was part of my fragile framework of joy. I do have choices. I can choose to have an apple with sugar-free almond butter. I can choose to have chicken and broccoli. And so as a trauma survivor and overcomer, still giving myself some autonomy with my choices was very important to me. So I took Coach Mama Fox's Food Peace course. And again, I will link her site down below. And that Food Peace course teaches the whole framework, which really clicked in and went right along with the types of food I was already eating. But it gave me starter education on actually tracking how many grams of protein I'm getting a day, how many grams of fat. It taught me to, because I was healing insulin resistance, about if I want that sweet potato, when and where to have it, so I could still have it, but how could I best have it to support my blood sugar and my insulin. For her course, it's all video lessons. She has a lot of printable downloads. I didn't download any of them. I did look at some of them on my phone, but basically when I would have my walking time every day for like, I think 3 days it took me maybe to listen through her videos, I had the tweaks that I needed to implement, and I started implementing those. And so November, December, January, I was implementing those tweaks that I learned from Coach Mama Fox. And I got clicked into a fantastic list of scientists and doctors and experts in this whole teaching that 87% of Americans are not metabolically healthy. And I learned about metabolic disease, and I learned about reversing insulin resistance. Now for me, for my own bio-individual journey, my off-the-charts high-risk inflammation reading that I got this summer, I've heard it said that blood work is a snapshot of that day. But I also know my crisis trauma level went up in the summer. I had a lot of really hard things I had to deal with and face. There were some very personally threatening situations, and my cortisol was just also through the roof, which wasn't from my walking and my running, it was from my lived experience. And so high cortisol can also lead to high glucose and high insulin. And high cortisol, it all works together, can also lead to off the charts inflammation. And I was dealing with all of that. So I don't necessarily link my inflammation and my insulin levels and my A1C and my blood glucose reading and my fasting glucose and all of that. I don't necessarily link that to the food that I was eating. My story is it was related to other things going on in my body. But again, I still have to eat, and I didn't want to eat just cow. And I know you've heard me say that 50 times already. So I needed to find another way to support my body with a fragile framework as the body dealt with the effects of my ongoing lived experience. And so if my cortisol's high, if my A1C is pre-diabetic, if I have insulin resistance, if I have all these numbers in the wrong direction, how can I eat to support that? And that's what I started to learn from Coach Mama Fox and all these experts. And I will say, March 2025, I have had a 60-pound weight loss for a year now. I keep it straight because I did the biggest freezer cooking video of the year on my main channel in February 2024. In that video, I shared my 50-pound weight loss, and I was 157 at the time. And that video came out end of February 2024. And so by end of March, early April 2024, I was at 150, which is a 60-pound weight loss from the height of my weight, which was 210. So even though in the past year, I haven't lost any more weight, I have maintained my 60-pound weight loss through it all. And that's like drop the balloons, pop the confetti, like I did the thing and I've maintained it. Now, yes, I was in such a good, seeing 2 to 3 pounds every couple weeks consistently for so many months. And that was so nice and encouraging. And again, it was like a goal I was seeing in action. It was disappointing when that stopped. And with my blood work, I was able to shift my focus to overall metabolic health. And so I had brand new blood work in January 2025. I believe I got my results February 2025, and I've had a video about this on my main channel where I shared all my lab work is improved. My A1C is no longer pre-diabetic. My fasting insulin was great. My fasting blood sugar was great. My inflammation that was off the charts, that was a 5.7. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the lab work directly. I will link the video down below where I go over all the lab numbers, but 99.9% sure that was below 1 or below 0.5. So coming down from 5.7, I mean, that's saving my life right there to get that inflammation down. I credit those results with the tweaks that I made in the food I was already eating with what I learned through Coach Mama Fox and then also these other experts. So here's some of the books that I have gone through. I'll go through each one of them with you that have been really helpful for the healing portion of my weight loss journey. So besides doing Coach Mama Fox's Food Peace course, she speaks a lot about Benjamin Beekman. He's a PhD, he's a metabolic scientist. And so his research has led him to preventing and reversing insulin resistance. He's worked again with patients with type 2 diabetes who have reversed it. and he deals with topics in here about Alzheimer's disease, being type 3 diabetes. And there's a lot in here, but it says, this book is the roadmap and your personal virtual tour guide to help you get to better metabolic health. So there's a lot of information in here on prevention of insulin resistance, on reversal of insulin resistance, and then maintenance after reversing insulin resistance. And there's recipes in here as well. And then why we get sick. So I read this hard copy. Then Why We Get Sick, I listened to this on Audible in December. It goes through so many diseases. I need to listen to it again. It says the hidden epidemic at the root of most chronic diseases and how to fight it. So informative. I cannot give you a full book report other than I listened to it. It was energizing to my brain. I appreciated it and it was so good. I'd like to listen through it again. And then just recently, the week that I took my kids to the water park in February, I started listening to The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung, and he gets heavy into intermittent fasting, and this was excellent. And one of the things that I have learned from, cover myself in my books, from Coach Mama Fox, one of the strategies I have learned from her is when listening to all the experts, what are the things they all say? What do they all agree on? What do they all have in common? There's another expert I clicked into, again, just in the Coach Mama Fox community in general, called The Glucose Goddess. I have 2 of her books on Audible. I haven't listened yet. But many of the Glucose Goddess hacks are also hacks that several of these other experts talk about. And there's things like Dr. Jason Fung wrote the foreword for Ben Binkman's book. I mean, they all work together in different ways. Even though it could be same but different, it's good information, again, for bio-individual needs. Then I started hearing more about Fast Like a Girl, and I saw this on the shelf of my running coach's office that I work with after I had shin splints, and I thought this was about running, okay? And it is about women fasting to their hormone cycle, and how where in the Obesity Code, Dr. Jason Fung teaches about intermittent fasting, Dr. Mindy Peltz in her Fast Like a Girl and Eat Like a Girl talks about different methods of fasting that her clients have used based on where they are in their menstrual cycles. Super fascinating. I listened to Fast Like a Girl on audiobook, and I read hard copy Eat Like a Girl. And I have all kinds of things circled in here, little notes, little pages dog-eared, and that's what I love about hard copy is you have the notes. But she teaches about your power phases. She also has a 30-day fasting reset guide, and it does not mean you fast for 30 days, but a way to do different fast over a 30-day period for women who are no longer having a menstrual cycle. And I found this super fascinating. So I have been in a learning and information gathering phase. And Coach Mama Fox doesn't teach fasting, but with the protein and the fat windows, one of the tidbits I'll share that she teaches is having a 5-hour window in between eating to basically, have your meals, have a 5-hour window in between, no snacks. Those are also Glucose Goddess hacks. Give our bodies time to process the entire meal and not always be feeding, which is opposite. There's so many plans out there, and I even have a good friend who she's lost 85 pounds with the plan that she clicked into that was good for her bio-individual needs, and I believe they eat every 2 to 3 hours. So testing out what Coach Mama Fox was teaching, having that 5-hour window in between eating, and she teaches about building out your meals to get your protein and your fat right, especially that first meal of the day, and she teaches, and Glucose Goddess teaches about that first meal of the day being a savory meal. And when I do that with my protein and my fat levels right, I'm fine for 5 hours not eating. And so that's how I got into reading Dr. Mindy's experiences as well, is because by eating that way that I was learning through Coach Mama Fox, I just wasn't hungry. I was naturally going into intermittent fasting basically every day and closing my kitchen down by 7 o'clock at night and not eating till the next day and not being hungry till noon or later. I've been learning about, based on where my menstrual cycle is, basically the times during the month that it's best for me to push longer fasting. So Dr. Mindy teaches intermittent fasting, and she has a YouTube channel too. I'll link it down below. low. Intermittent fasting is 12 to 16 hours, and that's what I naturally just started doing. Then autophagy fasting, which starts at 17 hours. So I can report so far in 2025, I've done many autophagy fastings where I go 18 to 20 hours. Dr. Mindy teaches 24 hours is a gut reset fast. I've done 2 of those. I have not gotten any further than 24 hours. And that's where I'm building, I'm practicing. So now currently I'm taking the fasting to our menstrual cycle teaching from Dr. Mindy. And I'm testing that on my body. Then she teaches a fat burning fast at 36 hours. That's my next goal that I hope to do at some point by spring. And she teaches that at 36 hours, your body starts releasing new stem cells. There's a dopamine reset fast that happens at 48 hours and an immune reset fast at 72 hours or more. And so again, I just think it's super fascinating. And so I can share more of this journey. But Dr. Mindy teaches about being an experiment of one, and I know Nisha Berry talks of that as well. They talk about the N of one theory, and Dr. Mindy talks about N of one theory in here. She has different fasting links there. I think I marked it, even though I listened to Fast Like a Girl on Audible, and she has updated her protein intake recommendations from Fast Like a Girl to Eat Like a Girl. By Eat Like a Girl, she's acknowledging and saying that many experts and many individual humans have had success in matching their protein goals to be 1 gram of protein per day per ideal body weight. But she does, in the back of Fast Like a Girl, she has fasting plans like for folks with type 2 diabetes who do this plan along with their doctor, and how she has modified it. She has a protocol for chronic fatigue, protocol for thyroid conditions, protocol for autoimmune conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Hashimoto's, PCOS. And again, all of this, she says, and I continue to reiterate, is with your doctor. Adrenal fatigue, immune system. She teaches about resetting your gut microbiome. So this is where I am now. I have lost 60 pounds. I have maintained my weight loss for a year now. And my weight still fluctuates. It likes to just fluctuate from 150 to 153. And then at times I'll see 149 and I'll think, oh, what's happening? And sometimes 147. The lowest that I've seen it is 146. I just walk up and down what's probably a natural fluctuation in my body. Then I was 149 and then I was 153, and that's just what my body does. And I think part of it is my body has done a lot. I've asked a lot of it. My body has carried me through, and we've gone through incredible healing, and it's just comfortable where it is. It doesn't want to give up any more weight. And I'm not sure now even what my goal weight would be. And what I mean in my protein goals, I have a goal of 120 grams of protein a day. You know, but I'd like to see 140. What's 140, okay? And then if my body's comfortable getting to 140, I'd love to see 130. Since my young body was 120, I've had 9 babies and lived a lifetime. And so for 2025, I have many 5Ks I'm signed up for, half marathon. I have my first trail races. I'm still continuing with my line dancing. And even though I've shared as a trauma survivor implementing spoon theory in my life, my doctor, my therapist, the other professionals in my life know how good physical activity has been for me. And like my therapist says, she agrees that it's good for me, that walking helps save me. She says I can never stop line dancing, that all of those activities help with that bilateral stimulation and processing. I just watched a clip today from another health expert on Instagram, where all the great health experts are, and she was saying that walking for 40 minutes 3 times a week alone helps increase the size of the hippocampus. And I do not beat the pavement hard all day, every day, like when I gave myself shin splints and healed from that. I run 3 to 4 times a week. I do get 15 to 20,000 steps most days. I go line dancing at the school gym twice a month. And hot dog, we've just had daylight saving times change, and I got hiking in the mountains in my future. So those are all mentally stimulating activities and good exercise for myself that play into my weight loss. And same with the girl who has my name, have my own back, and then reading all of these books. I have some more. I have a book called Good Energy by Casey Means that many of you told me about, which also I believe it's about metabolic healing and insulin resistance. And so those are the things I'm learning about in my healing journey as well. So thank you for watching my weight loss movie. Lost 60 pounds, found physical activity within it, have found an overall structure of eating that works well for me, even though I've adapted it a bit and it's changed and I've had to make it work for me. And I lost 60 pounds and I've maintained that weight loss. So ask me any questions down in the comments below. I will link all these other books and resources in the description too, along with resources for women who are in crisis and hurting, who might need therapy and can't afford it at this time, but need pointed to free podcasts and experts and online resources and support that is a great springboard for getting started. I appreciate all of you. Again, leave me those questions and I'll see you real soon with another brand new video. Bye-bye.